All right. Hey, welcome to our Sunday evening live as we are gathered here. First Baptist Church, Troy. Glad that you're joining us. I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about tonight. COVID is still going on. People are still having problems. I don't know about you, but it seems like I was talking with Rhonda a little earlier. It seems like you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. You just don't know what's going on. I think that's tiring people out. They're not really knowing what's happening. We've got Chris Cannon, associate pastor, leader of music and men and their church and all the good stuff everything there. And Thomas Miller, our guru of gurus on the tech stuff, and also has the Wayfinders for the boys and a little boys program that we have. Check that out on our website. It's a great program to get your boys involved in. And then I've asked Rhonda Ramirez to come and to speak to us. She's a counselor. She's an art teacher, been an art teacher at Temple High School for 19 years, and also is a counselor, has her LPC and does counseling on the side. And it's her ministry, and so I've asked her to come and help us deal with some of these issues that we have in COVID and what people are going through. I do have to put out the little disclaimer. She is my daughter, so when I call her the best counselor in the world, you'll know why I'm doing that, but I really think she is. But in talking with her, I told her a little bit as we were coming here. I just want to share just a little bit of her spiritual journey, and then Rhonda, how does that affect you and how in your counseling, and then we'll get into some things that people need to do in counseling.
Yeah, so I was 7 years old, which you know. I was 7 when I came to know the Lord. I accepted Jesus when I was at a Bill Glass crusade at the Expo Center, which was a really long walk to the bottom, just to let you know. It was like everybody was called to the bottom who had made a decision, and we were really high, and it was a long walk.
You could not get further back in the Expo Center. I have a story about that and how God dealt with me on all this, but it was all the way at the top.
It was a long walk, and I was crying the whole way because I knew God had touched my heart and had talked to me. And I say this, I know that I had been in church before, but it's the first time I remember hearing the song, I Have Decided to Follow Jesus. And so I remember hearing that, and I remember going down, and we had a discussion with this sweet woman who was just as cryy as I was about what it meant to follow Jesus and what it meant to make that decision, and that's what I did. And so from then on, I had an open relationship with Jesus. And then in high school, it got a little kind of weird because like I was in school, and in school everything had to be proven, and I couldn't prove God, or I didn't think I could prove God, and I had a little like kind of religious religious crisis kind of thing, and then interestingly enough, I weirdly looked up this verse earlier today for something else. But we had a discussion, meaning Harlan and I had a discussion about how God's gifts and his calls are irrevocable, which is Romans 11:29. And so after that discussion, I was like, okay, I know for sure without a doubt that I'm saved, and that God is real, and he is participating in my life every day. And then not too long after that, I had this feeling, this call of, I know God wants me to do something with my life for him, but I didn't exactly know what it was. But I knew that I had to surrender to whatever that was. And then I didn't really think about that for a while after that. Then I enjoyed college and didn't really have an idea of what I was going to do with my life. And I got out of college and still didn't have an idea what I was going to do with my life. So I tried a thing, and that wasn't it for sure. And so I decided, well, I'll just go teach for a little while until I figure it out. Well, teaching was definitely a call on my life. It's definitely something that I have been called to do. So I'm now this is my 19th year. I was really only going to do it for 5 until I figured it out. And then
You're still figuring.
I know. Still figuring every day. And then about 2 or 3 years into teaching, I knew that I wanted to also be a therapist because of some other things. When I was a junior, I had what I would say my first boyfriend committed suicide. From that point, I was like, I probably should do something to help that situation, and didn't know exactly what that meant. But again, I hadn't thought about it until after I'd gotten to teaching, and after I taught for a little while, I was like, oh, I can be a therapist. I can do that. So then I just started going to school after work, and I did that for a couple of years and graduated, and then I took another hiatus and sat by the pool for a little bit. And then I decided to get on my license and get serious about counseling. And so I did all my hours and that. So I started counseling in 2009 at my office that I'm at now. So I've been doing that a while as well. How many years is that?
That's what,
12 years?
12 years,
Yeah, 11, 12 years.
Yeah, I've got 10 fingers.
I can't go past 10.
So I've been doing that a while. In between that, I feel like on one of our mission trips, before we went on our mission trip, of course we did like a spiritual gift survey. And one of my spiritual gifts is mercy. And I feel like mercy pretty much fits right into those careers. God has blessed me with the ability to sit with people in hard times. It's not the funnest thing in the world, but it is an ability that I have. So that's kind of how it all came around.
All right. Well, how do you then use that now as you're dealing with people today, as they're coming to you with their problems? How are you, that path that you've walked? How are you able to help them?
Yeah. I think I just know that everybody makes mistakes, chosen, sometimes forced, but everybody has those things in their life that they're like, man, I wish I would have done something different. And or maybe they're just having a hard time in their life and they can't figure out what to do next, and it just seems so unclear. And so when people come to my office, it's usually one of those two things, or we're dealing with like some grief or some life change that's just difficult. And I just try to listen, because man, we all have really rough times sometimes, and we just need someone to listen and kind of hear what we're saying. And sometimes I reflect back what they're saying so that they can hear what they are saying, because sometimes if you're saying it, you don't hear yourself. And also because I was also trained partly by God and a lot by Harlan to be able to see the different perspectives of one story. So I can always see multiple perspectives, which is really a blessing and a curse, really. But because even when I get mad at somebody, I'm like, well, I kind of understand why they're mad and why I'm mad and why it didn't happen right. So anyway, I can see multiple perspectives of lots of stories, almost all stories. I can see, well, yeah, that really was hard for you. So do you feel like you did the best you could in that moment? Is that something? I mean, we can always change things. There's nothing that says you have to be the same person forever. But were you doing the best you could then? And just giving a little bit of mercy to people to let them forgive themselves sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, if y'all have any comments or questions, man, feel free to jump in, and Thomas will let us know what those are. And don't know if we have anything yet, Thomas, or not.
We do not.
We do not. Okay.
Let the suspense build while he raises the mic.
You tell he's a TV guy. Jeez. Okay. As we've gone through COVID, and you're a teacher, and you see it through your kids, you see it through parents, you see it through your clients, and you hear it on the news of things going there. Had you in a while back and talking about how to deal with some things. Things have changed, but things haven't changed in many ways. What are some things that you're seeing, and how can we overcome those? How can we get through? What's some techniques, exercises, whatever you want to call them, that can be done to just help people get through this time of weirdness? That's all I know to call it.
I wish I had that magic thing where you could like twinkle your nose and make everything better, but that does not work.
I would love to have. I've thought many times if I could just wink or something and fix it.
That's it.
That would be so much easier, and I think I would be wealthier. But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But I think during this time, everything is so uncertain. Like we were talking earlier, there's nothing that's really. First, there's nothing that feels completely normal.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that don't feel all that out of whack, but it's not completely right either. They're askew somehow. And things change. Things are changing on a daily basis, depending on what region you're in the United States, depending on what country you're in the world. Yeah. Things are changing consistently. So it's that unknown, consistent moving that does make us feel more anxious. And just more uncertain, like what is the next day going to bring? And sometimes it's like, I have said before, I don't ever watch the news because it's hard for me to listen. But sometimes I know people that I see sometimes are like, I just don't know what's going to be on the next newscast. I'm like, well, I mean, if it's affecting your life, maybe that's something we should not completely listen to every day, or all three of them. Maybe just one would be okay. Sometimes it's just figuring out what is the thing that's pushing the button that makes you feel anxious, and kind of stepping back from that for a little bit. It doesn't have to be forever, but definitely during this time where nothing is really certain, and then we can get really like philosophical. There's not a whole lot of things that are certain in life, but that's a whole nother story. But in this time where it feels like nothing is normal, but nothing is quite completely off, maybe we just step back from things that are pushing our buttons. That, maybe you listen to a news podcast, and maybe that's just not something that you can listen to right now, or news radio, something like that. Or maybe there are people who have differing opinions about what's going on, and when you get together you always argue. That might be somebody that you have to step back from for a little bit and say, okay, this is just not good for me. It's not healthy for me to be around someone that I have to argue with all the time about anything. So I'll just step back until things seem to even out a little bit.
Okay. All right. Chris, what do you...
I'm a non-news watcher. I quit watching a while ago. It partially...
I know when the weather comes on. I watch it pretty much.
I got a weather app and I'm good. So like, what's it going to do today? Tap? Okay, that's all I need. Thanks. But yeah, I have found that, and especially when COVID was really ramped up, I mean, you were seeing death and uncertainty, some of it being reported accurately, some of it maybe being... Whatever the reporting was, it was massive in the news, and you just see this over and over and over, and the impact on your mental health. And it isn't just that; it's stuff all, like you said, all around the world. And every now and then I just say I want to read 10 headlines and see what's going on. And sometimes I tap on one of them, and that's my no.
Then you get into the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really, and to your point, that has really. I'm a little more ignorant as to what's going on, right. But I think that what I get from that probably outweighs knowing about it for me personally. And so I think I would affirm what you're saying there. It helps me.
I also think that I love social media. I use all of it, a lot of it, and no TikTok, but a lot of it. Sometimes we have to like block some of those things that are popping up on our feed. You can still stay connected to your friends and see their kids. You can still stay connected to people who are speaking truth from the Bible to you. But maybe you have to block some of the other things that are not necessarily the most healthy for you to continually see over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can maybe speak on behalf of news, on behalf of the media.
Whoops.
No, I can give kind of some insight in what we run into. So media in general, it's intended to get a response.
Right.
So we don't craft something to say,
Be neutral.
Try to, but it's more of a, we're going to have a question attached to it to evoke a response. Now, we've kind of gotten this day and age of we want clicks, we want clicks, we want clicks. Why do we want clicks? Because clicks build page views, and what do page views builds a great resume to sell to advertisers to say our website gets 16 million page views a month or whatever the case is, and that is a factor. Now, I also know that at least with local organizations, the goal is, and this is all of them in our area, the goal is to be, the people live here, work here,
Right.
the intention is to be neutral where they can. But where I'm going with this is I get a digest of my news once a day from a service, not even where I work, just a local, a national service that I get an email digest, skims the headlines. It's written as a way to say, here's what's going on, here's what was reported, and then move on down the list.
I do too, and it has no visual pictures
No
because that's hard
pictures.
for me.
It's just, here's the facts, and then I read it, like, okay, I know what I need to know. I know who won the game last night, and that's really all so I can talk the talk, because I'm not a sports guy. Like, hey, how'd the Cowboys do? I know how the Cowboys are typically going to do.
Yeah, that's it.
That's also where the stress
And we
too.
just lost everybody.
That also adds to the stress as well. But I still like them and the Rangers. But I think we look at, if you're concentrating your attention on one thing, and that is the draw of if that is causing you the unhappiness,
Right.
so get off the social media. If you have to be on it for family, check it once or twice a day, period, just to respond and get off. Watch. You can watch the news, yes, but as you said, don't live in it.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. Is people are like, just, oh my gosh, if you watch the news,
All of
any
it.
news, you're going to get the reactive content. It's intended to be the what can we do to evoke reaction from someone?
Right.
And that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're going to get it, and if you're reacting, your brain, it numbs your brain over time to where you're just in a constant state of anxiety.
Exactly.
Well, and I think also, as you listen to it in the news, a lot of times, news is about what's supposedly happening in the world and this and that, but all of a sudden you lose reality in a lot of things.
Well, I was gonna say,
your
the bigger-
reality's gone.
The bigger picture of that is not necessarily, picking on the news, but the bigger picture of that is, okay, well, let's focus on what you were doing in your life today with the people who are in front of you, and there's the term that we use in therapy, it's called grounding, that we want to be in this moment, in the here and now, all the time. Because anxiety is just worry about what could happen in the future.
Right.
And if we're thinking about the future, then your brain has no energy to do right now. And right now is the important part. Right now is where you can make connections with people. Right now is where you're doing whatever job that hopefully gives you some purpose, or you feel like you're doing something for the people around you. And so we want to ground ourselves in the present. And that's really the bigger picture. Not necessarily just picking on the news, but is saying, okay, what are we doing right now? I tell people all the time that I live my life in hour increments. School is an hour class. Counseling is an hour. But it's really easy for me to digest what can I do in this hour that is productive and helpful, and is productive and helpful to the person who's across from me. That's it. That's all I can do is what I can do in this hour. And so sometimes those grounding things, the things that we need to do to get out of the anxiety, is to seriously change our environment. That's one way. Go outside for a minute and take a walk.
Yeah.
We're changing the environment. We're getting our brain, like, oh, there's nature and birds and things like that. If you need to, take off your shoes and walk in the grass so that you can feel something different.
Especially if it's at Harlan's yard. He's
That
got a
is
great
true.
yard for
That
barefoot
is true.
walking.
Yes, it
If
is.
you can-
And he knows it.
Yes, it's true. If you can barefoot walk in the grass, it's a really instant grounding technique. Things that are sensory related, so seeing, hearing, touching, what is smelling,
Smelling.
Tasting?
tasting. All of those
Bowl of
things.
Bluebell?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All of those, anything that's connected to your sensories is a way to ground yourself in the moment. When you smell fresh bread baking, like you're right there. You know exactly what's going on, and really, I don't know if you're sitting at the oven, you may be sitting at the oven waiting for the bread to come out, right? But you're right there in the moment. If you have a pet, they will require you to be present with them. If you have children, they will require you to be present with them. Now, not all the time, but when it feels like they may be annoying, they're just asking you to be present.
You know what, to that one, I have 3 boys, and one of the challenges for me, like you're saying, is you're being grounded in those moments. And some I've been working on trying to be in the moment with those guys, because what I find, like what you're saying, if I'm thinking, and I'm thinking about this, and we have this coming up, and we've got this tomorrow, and there's this I'm concerned about, it rips me out of those circumstances with those little guys. And
Well, and then it often takes longer for them to get that connection that they're looking for. Honestly, if you would, not just you personally, but
No, you can point it at me, I'm
all
all
of
right.
us would just stop for a second and actually make that connection,
Yeah.
it generally is probably shorter than having to do it over and over and over again, because
Yeah,
the kid
that's
feels
true.
like they haven't been heard. And with even with my students, I try really hard to do that. And sometimes I have to say, okay, stand right here, don't move, let me finish typing this, and then when I'm looking at you, you can talk to me. Because we know that really the best communication happens when we have eye contact. I say in my classroom, let me see everybody's eyes so I know that you're hearing, because we listen with our eyes. And they're like, no, we don't. I said, yes, we do.
Yeah.
Because we listen with our eyes. So I need everybody's eyes. And I will wait until everybody's eyes are turned around. And that's when I will start talking, because I know that they're listening. And so that's another way to ground ourselves, is if you have a spouse or a family member, if you would just stop for a minute and look at them in their eyes when they're talking, that's a really big grounding thing. Because you're right there with them, instead of making lunches, sweeping, and hearing somebody talk. Even if it's just informational, you still need to know that. And then when you are looking at them, they will give you more than just informational communication. They will be like, man, thank you so much. I know you're listening. It may not be right then, because we all have to learn how to do that. But, just to be able to look at somebody is a grounding technique. Also, another grounding technique is really sometimes feeling something, because right now there's the wood on this chair is slick, and the jean, I can feel the ribs in my jeans. And if you take a moment to really think about that, it gets you out of that anxiety moment, and you're like, oh, that kind of feels interesting. Or a piece of the carpet, or something different, so that you're focusing on something else aside from all the big things that are happening, because all the big things are too much for any of us to handle. None of us handle it.
Well, and I think that's an issue. And Thomas said, do we have any questions or anything coming in?
No.
No. Okay. I think the big things, and we were talking about the news earlier, but back when I was growing up, we had 3 stations. Now there is so much information out there, it truly overwhelms. And that's where I think when you're saying grounding, you've got
that
to.
is really the key, and what I was even getting at. It's we do need to know what's going on. And,
Yes.
And believe it or not, and I'm going to probably get hate mail, but not every organization's intended to be. Sometimes it can come across one-sided, and yes, I know how that works, and sometimes. But if we're reporting on a city council meeting that you need to know about a tax increase, it's the selection.
That's
Because
it.
it's like, oh, do you want conservative news? Do you want liberal news? Do you want do you want news about this? Do you want news about that? Well, we've got all the channels available that anybody can watch. From online to you want to hear about UFO conspiracies? We got news for that too. And so it's just so much. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Well, it makes you freeze. When you have too many choices, you freeze, and you don't know what to do, and you you
Well,
just take it all
and
in.
I think, and not only maybe freeze, but all of a sudden we always we gravitate to that which we relate to the most. So it's what the news we listen to. So instead of getting a well-rounded of what's going on, it's just a constant, this one thing, and we think that is the world.
You also gravitate to what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And we're gravitating to matching feelings. So if you feel anxious, you're going to gravitate to something that makes you feel more anxious.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
you're matching your emotions.
Well, and that's the biggest problem with social media now, specifically with Facebook, because Facebook's whole algorithm
It's
built
around
around
that.
what is this person into? Okay, so they're into this topic. Okay, find them more posts about this topic.
Yes.
And we're going to show it to them. Oh, they're liking it even more. Find them some more and serve it to them.
Right.
Well, now you're getting all just one type of information.
Right.
YouTube does it. They all do it.
Yeah, they all do it,
But
yeah.
they all push, okay, this person likes this kind of content. Now, it's not like intended to be, nefarious. It's just like, oh, he likes boats. Keep showing him boats. Or this guy likes political posts about this, so keep serving this up.
Right.
Well, you end up drowning yourself in
Right.
that content, and that's when it gets overwhelming.
Yeah. It's
It's
just
just
matching
one-sided.
those feelings, and you often are drawn to the feeling you already have instead of countering the feeling you already have. It has to be like an intentional decision to sit and listen to a meditation that talks about breathing when you're anxious. That's not something that you normally do when you feel anxious, because when you feel anxious, generally your heart races, you feel kind of buzzy inside, you may start breathing heavily, or your brain just can't stop. And so you have to intentionally do something to stop that. And so sometimes the intention is, okay, you can get on YouTube, and there's some very very breath-focused meditations that just get you to focus on your breathing, which calms you physically down. And when you can physically take those symptoms, or whatever those are, symptoms, I would say, when you take those physical symptoms away, then it's easier to stop your brain from going there. Because sometimes anxiety is triggered by a thought, but sometimes anxiety is triggered because your body is experiencing the symptoms you normally experience with anxiety. So some people have a hard time running because when you run, your heart rate goes up, you sweat, you have a hard time breathing, and all of a sudden their body was like, oh, I know what this feels like. I should be anxious. And then the body has tricked
That's my
it.
excuse right there.
I was thinking it. I wasn't going to say it, though.
So sometimes it's triggered by a thought, and sometimes it's triggered by a physical feeling. Maybe you have maybe you ate something and your stomach is unsettled, but normally when you feel anxious, your stomach is unsettled. So because your stomach is unsettled, your brain thinks you're anxious. So then you become anxious instead of the other way around sometimes.
So then as I'm listening, change of environment,
Yeah, for sure.
grounding, a comment about something I have done that helps me, and then a question. Looking at what do I replace some of these things with? Because if I'm going to stop jumping on social media 50,000 times a day, if I'm going to if I'm going to bring in less news, well, what types of things can I put in there? One of the things I like to do is I've got a few Bible teachers I really love to hear them preach. I've downloaded their app on my phone, and maybe instead of watching whatever news or whatever, I'm just hit start on a audio teaching, set my phone in my cup holder. My truck doesn't have Bluetooth, old school.
Yeah.
But and so I just listen to good preaching, and I find that when I will do that, I just feel better.
Yeah.
So that's one that I use. From your perspective, what can people, maybe they're anxious over everything, whatever, looking at the world. What are some things that maybe they say, well, I'm going to kick off of social media for a month or whatever, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What can I replace those things with?
Yeah, I think definitely podcasts. There are really great Christian podcasts. There are great just humor podcasts. It just makes you laugh. I would say laughing for any reason helps. If you can get something that makes you laugh, even if you fake laugh at the beginning and then you start real laughing, that still helps.
That's how people laugh at my joke.
Like,
Yeah.
Anytime you're laughing, that always helps. But also, maybe having someone in your household just check on you and say, hey, if they see you and have your phone out or whatever, or on your computer or whatever, just say, hey, let's go do something. Let's play a board game.
Oh.
Go outside and watch the sunset. Do something that's slower, that slows you down and makes you take notice of what's actually going on.
It's not like 90 frame changes in 30 seconds.
Yeah, no 10 million tabs and switching back and forth.
Yeah.
None of that. Just slow down, and all of those things are mostly free. Probably have a stack of cards at your house. So like going for a walk is always good.
So I'm hearing a couple in there, cultivate times of quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to counter all of the noise with the quiet.
A lot of times we don't know it's the noise.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
become so used to it
Yeah.
that we don't realize it. Yeah.
For sure. And if there's something that you really love doing, try to go, like, if there's a hobby that you love doing that is just you've just been too busy to do, maybe you go back to it. There's those if you like things that are very let's see, what's the word for it, that just need a lot of attention, there's those like diamond art things that you like, these tiny little diamonds that you replace, and you create a piece of artwork out of these rhinestones. If you're really good at attention to detail things, that's something you can do. It has nothing to do with technology, and you're focused on getting it in the right place. Just anything that slows your
Gardening.
brain.
Gardening.
Gardening.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
And I've heard people speak of things, working
Yeah,
in the
growing
soil and
things.
growing
Yeah.
and.
Well, and one trend that my wife was into, and it's still popular, is that they have coloring books for
Yeah.
The
adults.
coloring books,
And
yes.
they're-
Yes.
and there's Christian based, and there's various based ones, but you just color like
Yeah.
the old days. You know, I think a lot of it's habit stacking. I think you have to. I'm going through a book, and I'll tell you what it is. I can't. It's not Christian, but it's not. It seems. I think it's Christian safe. It's called Atomic Habits, and the author goes through basically what actions are you doing that's leading what you can write down what you're doing, your habits all day long. Like, I woke up, I did this, I took. Then start associating. Okay, when did you do the bad habit? Well, it was around this time. Okay,
Right.
What can you stack and
There.
associate with that habit that would be a positive change? And it's not asking for the next day, like give up everything, you're done. It's like start evaluating and then start noticing, okay, the anxiety starts around here. What was I doing at this time? And then when you can identify that, you
Maybe
start
change
making
that.
a change to something that would be considered more healthy,
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Reading
Reading,
an
yeah.
actual book, cross stitching. I love to do embroidery, and I'll do that. Just going fishing, doing something that's outside of the daily life and the walls of your house generally. Sometimes it can be inside your house, but it's hard to change because that environment's usually right there. So you have to kind of sometimes change the environment first, and then you can go back. But just anything that gets you out of the future and the worry about what is coming and gets you right here.
Well, it just makes me think of what Jesus said.
Exactly.
I know you've probably been thinking the same
That's it.
passage. Don't worry about tomorrow. It's got enough of its own stuff. Or no, today has enough to deal with.
yeah.
Tomorrow will take care of itself.
That's right.
Be like you said.
Not the birds, not
in the
worrying
now.
about
What they're going to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just here.
And I think that's it. And that's what we've got to get into the today.
The
What
here and
can I
now.
do today? How can I improve my life today? What can I do for others today? And quit worrying. And again, tomorrow, what's the old song of tomorrow never comes? Because 90% of the stuff, statistically, over 90% of the stuff you worry about happening tomorrow never happens. And you wasted all that time today in worrying about it, and you could have done other things.
Yeah, and chunking things up in chunks. Like, like my life is the 1 hour chunk. It's easy for me. Everything is scheduled already like that. And so, yes, in the morning I look to see when I get to come home on my schedule. But other than that, what can we do right now with these people right here for 1 hour? How can I give them my best for 1 hour? That's it.
I think that's it. Any comments, anything?
Yeah, Stephanie Cannon says, Rhonda, do you know how great you are? Jacqueline says that coloring
stuff.
helped her in the past, and then Megan Cannon says, greater is he that is in me.
Yeah,
Amen.
for sure.
Amen. And that's it. Thomas, what's our time?
Oh, we're about 7 after.
We're about 7. Oh,
I'll give you the rap signal.
okay. Give me the rap
Teach y'all
signal.
some new signals
Hey,
and rap.
this has really been good. I'm gonna have her back. I mean,
Yeah.
she's the greatest counselor I know.
That's right. Do you know how great you
She's
are?
not charging you for this.
And she's not charging me for this. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
he's probably paid.
Yeah.
I tell you what,
In
folks,
years.
all of this, I think if we put into practice, will affect us and help us and make a difference in our lives. Get off the junk and get into the now. Get into something that makes a difference. Listen to some great sermons, podcasts, read the Bible. That's a great book to do. Yeah.
Heard good things about
it's
Has
a
it
good
come to
thing.
that?
it. It's a bestseller. I hear.
Find you some Christian authors. If you like fiction, there's great Christian fiction that's out there, and it takes your mind away from what's going on. Get out, do some gardening, walk, all these things. Start stamp collecting. I don't know.
Notice the clouds. They're
Notice
so
the
cool.
clouds, yeah. I mean, it is just, there's so much we can do. Quit worrying about tomorrow. Quit listening to all the junk that's out there because it's coming from all different ways. And just get today. Get in today. Rhonda, thank you. I appreciate that. I will have you back. And you earned lunch today. But folks, thank you for joining us and being a part of this. If you do have any questions, maybe you catch us after we've been live. If you want to send an email in to us, and we'll get it to Rhonda, and we'll get an answer out to you. But we'll be getting her back down the line as we go through this. So, Chris, thanks. Thomas, thanks. Y'all, thanks. And Kathy, we're coming home. We'll see you in a little bit. God bless.
Well, I'm not going with you. So, Kathy, it's okay. I'm not going. So,
Okay.
Yeah, that goes for me too.
Rhonda and I. Oh, jeez.
hard bye.